Guys, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about triads, tetrachords, and maybe pentatonics if we have some time. And I'm going to demonstrate all these forms and devices of improvisation using it over impressions. Impressions is basically, it's a modal tune which has 32 bars form, A, B, A. In case you don't know, the first A is basically, and the second A is basically D minor, it's one chord, and the second A is E flat minor, which is half step above, and it's a 32 bar form. Now, there is some sort of misconception that I noticed about a lot of students that approaching this tune, which is, okay, so what are we going to do now? We're going to use D Dorian or D mode of some sort over the D minor. And then, when we get to the bridge, we're gonna take the whole thing half step above. Those things are obviously correct. You can play D Dorian or D minor or sometimes harmonic minor or melodic minor. And these devices, they sound good. They always sound good. I still use it. I use chromatic notes in between these tones. And there's so many possibilities that sometimes you don't know what to start with. I noticed that some of the students just don't know how to approach this thing, and the main reason for that is because we're talking about a diatonic scale which has 7 notes in it. Now think about it, we have so many different possibilities and combinations that we can do with 7 notes that it could be really overwhelming sometimes. So my suggestion in this particular video is actually break it down to small forms, or some people call it shapes. It depends on what terminology you're using. Some people are applying the same terminology for different things. But I'm saying instead of having a 7-note scale, let's work with 3-note scale. We're going to call it a triad. Now, when I say triad, and that's my own terminology, and I know I'm not the only one, but for me, triad is basically, it's not necessarily major or a minor triad or diminished or augmented triad. This is not what it's for me. For me, triad is basically a form. It's 3 notes. It could be any 3 notes, and the only condition that I ask, I guess, in order for that to be called a triad, is to use different letters or different notes, which means if you have A, B, C, that's a triad. Or if you have A, B, D or A, B, F, that's a triad, as opposed to, AAD or, doubling one of the notes. Okay? The triad, as far as I'm concerned, in this particular case, has to be a combination of 3 letters, different letters. All right. Now, I want to show you how many things you can actually do with just 3 letters. And when I say things, I'm saying you can do a lot of operations with these 3 notes and create very, very interesting music and effective music if, and that's a big if, you apply some rhythm or a rhythmic pattern that actually makes sense, which will make it sound like a motivic musical statement. All right, so remember, we have 3 notes and we have to apply a rhythm of our choice for that and work with that. I'm going to show you a very small example, and it's something that for me, it already supplied something for me to work and practice for at least an hour or so, and it's something that's worth exploring. So here are the notes. You have the F here, you have the A and the B. And I'm reminding you, we're applying these notes over D minor. Okay? Okay? Without doing any further operations on these 3 notes, take these 3 notes and apply some rhythms for it over impressions, which is D minor. And then I'm going to take these notes, I'm going to make it F sharp or G flat, and then it's going to go to B flat, and then it's going to go to C. Okay? All right. So here we go. I'm going to play the playback here, the background, and hopefully you can see different rhythms that I'm going to apply for for these very three notes. Okay, so now you can actually notice that I was really restricting myself not to step out of these three notes. No operations yet. Now, when I'm starting to go into operating into these three notes, and now we can go into, some people call it octave displacement, or basically using the same letters. Remember, we're talking about three letters. Search for them in different octaves. So if we had it over here, we also have the same notes or the same letters. I have to emphasize the same letters over here. So it's octave lower. We also have them here. Or okay. Also, you can find them over here. And we also can find them over here. Okay? And now, remember, we have only three letters, but we have a lot of notes that we can start doing some operation, and that's going to actually make our exploration here much more flexible in terms of looking for different forms of melodies. Okay? And later on, obviously, applying the rhythm. So if we have, for example, what I just did now, I did the B here, F on top, and then went back in octave. Now this is a form that it's derived out of the triad that we're dealing with here. Now, we could go and look for it. Could use the B here. So now we have, for example, we have F, B, F on top, and B here. So we're basically not even using three notes. We're just using two notes out of that triad, but we already have a form which has four different notes. Two letters, but four notes. You see how I'm differentiating between the two? Letters and notes. Notes are different than the letters, okay? Because they're octave different. And if we're using the A here, now we basically have like a, I don't want to call it a scale. Here's the A. So I'm starting with the F. Here's the F, B, F, B again, and now I'm using the A. So it's already a 5-note shape, or a 5-note form, or creature, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you. Remember that in terms of terminology, from my experience at least, I've noticed that talking to great musicians, that most of them, the way they practice, they kind of creating their own terminology. So you could do the same for yourself, especially when it comes to improvisation, because you have to work with some sort of logic for yourself. So in terms of the form that we have here, or the cell, whatever some people calling it cell, this is we started with 3-note cell, now we have 4-note cell, and we even expanded it into 5-note cell. Okay, so now that makes it much more flexible. So I'm going to play the playback again, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this 5-note form.
1, 2, 3.
Alright, so you saw what happens. You're already kind of developing what started out of just 3 notes. We developed it into a 5-note creature. Alright? And remember, this is a good way for you to step out of this whole, oh, what key am I using now? Am I using D Dorian? Am I using no. Let's just concentrate on some of the notes out of these modes, or the triads, you know. I'm going to actually expand it even further into the other octaves. Okay, so again, I'm trying to work within a certain area of the guitar. I don't want to expand too much because, you know, that makes it harder. You know, you want to keep it, in order to be concentrated on the rhythm, because remember, the rhythm is one of the most important things of creating these melodies. So in order for you to relax your body and swing these forms, you need to make sure that you play them in area which is not going to be too challenging for your fingers to think about, you know, where you're going to place your fingers and all that. So here it is. So we have the triad. We already have we had the B and we added the F here. Now we're going to add a full triad here again, which is octave below the given triad here. See how many combinations you can do? Okay, I just added one more note, which is the A, which is actually granted for us, you know, taking it from the original triad, which is B, A, and F. Okay, so now we have a 6-note form here, derived out of the triad. Again, we have the F, we added the A here, so that's B here, so that's 3 notes, and we're using the original triad. So that's, now we have 6-note. It's a 6-note. Again, I don't want to call it a scale because it's not a scale. Basically, scale has to go gradually. You know, scale doesn't go like this. You know, scale has to go within certain order. It has to be 1, 2, 3 or A, B, C. This is not a scale. This is just a form, a creature, but it's a 6-note creature. All right. All right. And I could play that over here. You know, when I added the triad, I added it over here. I can work on this one too. It's the same note, but it's up to you which one is easier for you to execute. All right, so now let's hear some examples. Oops. The problem is that, you see, I'm already finding it very hard to restrict myself, and that happens. You know, if you notice, I added the E over here, which is, it's a kind of a foreign note. Good note, but it's out of our practice here. It's not within the context of our practice here. Our practice here is to actually squeeze in or squeeze out the most out of the 3 notes that I mentioned at the beginning. Okay? So let's try it again.